Good afternoon. Let's begin by taking refuge. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, and I take refuge in Sangha. As Onshin mentioned at the beginning of Sunday program, we are ending our sesshin on death and dying. So every February at the monastery, we take a week and do the Parinirvana sesshin, which is the commemoration of the Buddha's death. And you'll see on the altar, we have the Parinirvana Buddha, the Buddha in the reclining posture, which is said to be the posture where which the Buddha took when he passed away. So we spent a week contemplating our own death and turning towards the reality that this life as we know it will pass away. Our bodies will die. The bodies of all those that we love will change, will age, may get sick, and will pass away. These contemplations are known in the Buddhist tradition as the 5 remembrances, recollecting that we are of the nature to have ill health, we are of the nature to age, we are of the nature to change. We are, and so is everyone else. For some, it can be a little weird. Why would we talk about those things? Aren't we supposed to kind of ignore them? That's what popular culture seems to show us. Get some Botox, exercise, prolong your life. But as Dharma practitioners, we face reality head on. Right? Jomon shared a koan, and part of it was, no stone left unturned. That's part of the gift of this practice, to face whatever is happening directly, to meet what's ever happening directly. So I actually requested to lead this sesshin. I don't know if you did.
I don't think I did.
Yeah. So we were saying some people came to the sesshin because of the theme, others came because it worked in their schedule. Jomon and I are in those camps. But for me, when I really contemplate the climate crisis, the state of our country, I feel like one of the activisms that I can offer is the practice of facing our own death, of looking directly at change, of really facing the reality that we can't hold on to anything. And finding stability in that. In Buddhism, it's not bad news. So part of what we were exploring is this strange and wonderful koan called The 7 Sisters Enter the Charnel Ground. And in the koan, there are 7 sisters, and it's a spring day. And one of the sisters says, hey, let's go to the charnel grounds. We've looked at the spring flowers a lot. Let's go to the charnel grounds instead. And another sister replied, well, that place is full of decaying corpses. Like, what is such a place good for? And the sister who had the idea replies, trust me, good things are there. And that, I think, is part, if you talk to anyone who did this sesshin at lunch, Like, there is something very good about turning toward our own death, the reality of our own death, but even the reality of our living and dying moment to moment. And in that, also turning towards whatever is arising in the present moment and meeting it directly. And so during Sesshin, that included, for a lot of people, grief. We were contemplating death. There was a lot of people who have lost somebody in their lives, of course. It's also part of this experience of life. We lose the ones we love. And so it was allowing grief, allowing the pain that our body feels. Pain sometimes that has been stored so deeply in our bodies, just from habit, from life. And when we come to Sesshin, it's right there, and we're invited to be with it. And what a gift. Good things are there. So I'm going to let Jomon talk now.
Good things are there. In a field of decomposing bodies, what good could be there? And we, in this retreat, just did look under every stone, not leaving any stone unturned. And when you do turn over a stone in the woods, you do see the creepy crawly things that might be something we would think to avoid ordinarily. And they're engaged in a process of decomposition or transformation, really, is what it is. I think that what many people experienced this week and expressed was that, and maybe you've had this experience, when you're afraid of something and you turn towards it, something happens. A lot changes then. Maybe you've had a nightmare of being chased by something that you can't see, and you finally resolve to turn around and face it. And in this retreat, we turned around to face death in every moment. That was one of our practices. In every moment, what is dying? For instance, maybe you had breakfast this morning. That experience is gone. Or whatever it took for you to arrive here. Your travel to the monastery this morning. Gone. This gathering here, right now, so real, right now, will be gone, never to be repeated ever again. And to keep turning toward that, and keep turning toward that, we then see what is alive. What is alive right now? Can only be right now. And we enjoyed another koan of the condolence call. The teacher and student attend the funeral of a member of the Sangha, and the student raps on the coffin and says, "Alive or dead? Alive or dead?" And the teacher says, "I won't say. I won't say." And it's not that he won't say. It's that he can't say. And even if he does say, he can't give the student the experience, the knowing that we each of us must have. That we each of us must look under every stone to know for ourselves what is alive. What is alive? What is this? Speaking of alive or dead.
So, one of our participants, who happens to be a transmitted teacher in our lineage, is going to tell us a remarkable story. So we want to get you a chair and bring you up here, Futai. That pertains very much to what we were doing in Sesshin, to this koan of what is alive, what is dead.
Good morning. So my story is about a year and a half ago, I got very sick, which is a medical term that doctors use when they don't want to scare you, right? And what it translates as is on death's doorstep. And in fact, one surgeon told me that I was very, very sick. And so the story, it started with the severe pain, which got me to the emergency room, which got me transported to another hospital and into the ICU. And the ICU is for people that are very sick, in fact, dying. And in the ICU, I had already been transitioning into death ever since I got that severe pain. And so I was more dead than alive, if I can use those terms. And what I witnessed was these bodhisattvas all around in the ICU, like angels moving around, all serving, all taking care. And this one bodhisattva in particular, I asked her, "How would you describe what you do?" And she said, which I would like to make on a plaque and hang it on the wall, but she said, "I see, I care, and my hands respond." Which is, this is the life of a bodhisattva in human form. But there are also bodhisattvas that are not in human form, that are everywhere. So anyway, I was so sick that I was actually able to be embodied in the ICU, hooked up to all of these things, and then switch over to death, to being dead, and experience what that's like, and spend time there doing that, being that, and then switch back to being in the ICU and being embodied again, and then go back. And I was able to go back and forth and compare the two. And frankly, being dead is really cool. And I'll say a little bit about that. But one important realization that in being able to, what I learned, is that you don't die. You don't die. That's not true. That's not what happens. Whatever idea that you have about being dead, that's not true. That's not what it is. There is a difference between the two. But we're all aware of differences. And during sesshin, our teachers were trying to remind us about change that's always happening, impermanence, right? And we all know about this. That's all is what is happening, is change, impermanence. There are the truths that are true for the living, for the embodied, are the same truths for the dead, for the what. And I don't like that term. I wish that we could get rid of that term dead.
What would you call it?
Not embodied. Because what actually happens is being embodied. We all know what it's like to be embodied, right? And in Zazen and in Zen, we actually practice being embodied. Breathing, right? Feeling, having emotions, crying, right? Being angry. Angry, it's a physical thing that we do embodied, right? And then there's not embodied. And it's like there's 5 aggregates and they come together into a human form. And we live being embodied, and then we transition to being not embodied, right? And then that's very different. And being not embodied is beautiful. It's wonderful. It's unconditional love. It is so welcoming. It's so easy, right? There's no effort involved. It's even desirable. And as I was transitioning or swinging back and forth between in the ICU, plugged into all of this equipment with bright lights all the time. They don't turn the lights off in the ICU. And then being able to be dead, right? Oh, dead, you know? That is so cool. Right? So, the medical professionals were able to, or when the emergency room physician came in and sat down and took a couple minutes to compose himself, he got my attention. Because I never saw an emergency room physician that sat down. They are really busy. And he sat down to have the conversation with me and inform me that in a nice way, trying not to scare me, that I was dying. And in all likelihood, this is it. Because I had a series of really serious things that culminated in my blood becoming infected, which they call sepsis. And because of where the infection started, there are all kinds of bacteria there, and the chances that he had given me the right antibiotic for that particular bacteria that was causing the sepsis was really slim. And most of the time people died from this. But luckily, they nailed it and got the right antibiotic. So I got the honor and privilege of being able to know what it's like to be embodied, which we all have that honor and privilege and opportunity, and also to see what it is to be not embodied, right? And I would, if there's one way, one label to put on it, I would say it's all living. It's just different. And one other thing, during which you can choose, you cannot believe this. If you don't believe it, that's fine, but it's true. It's true. At our Parinirvana session that's just ending, Tuesday morning, I sat down on my zafu, which is my transmitting teacher's zafu that he sat on. His name is Jitsudo. And actually I wear his kesa that my Zumi Roshi gave to him when they transmitted together. And I bow on Jitsudo's zagu, which he practically wore out, bowing on it. And I sat down Tuesday morning and sat up straight, and straighter than I usually do. And it was surprising. And then as I started to sit, this samadhi that was open and clear and steady occurred. And then I realized that it was Jitsudo, who, by the way, died 5 years ago. And I thought, oh, thank you. I need the support. I'm not looking forward to this session. You know, this is a 72-year-old body, you know, and I like to imagine that I'm 30 years old again, and I'm not. And oh, thank you for the help. And then sitting for a while, and actually the experience was, Jitsudo came, and we were sharing this body. And sitting together, I realized, you know, it's like well aware that you don't need a body to sit zazen. But Jitsudo, being dead for 5 years, probably really missed the opportunity to do embodied zazen, to be able to breathe, to be able to have a heart, to cry, to feel, right? With a body, in the body, as a body. And so I spent Parinirvana session sitting with Jitsudo, sharing this body. And so, you know, people ask, well, where do you go when you die? You don't go someplace else. You go here. There's a change, right? It's different. But there's always changes. It's always changing. This is a change. It's significant change, But it's not like life and death are incompatible, or life and death. Life is here, death is there somewhere, and that's like the like that question in the koan, like alive or dead? Tell me, come on, alive or dead? And the way I see this koan, when the teacher says, I won't say, or I won't say alive, I won't say dead, it's because the terms don't make any sense, alive or dead. It's like as if they're separate. They're not. And the transition to death, we're all doing that. We're already doing that. Death is beautiful. Death is unconditional love. Death is being together. That kind of intimacy that Jitsudo and I trust each other in a way that I can welcome him, and he can come and share bodies with me, share my body, right? And feel that again, right? And taste that again. And it's cool. No big deal.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, if death is so great, why did you come back?
It's those goddamn doctors. They wouldn't let me die. They were determined and skilled.
I have another question. Well, how has it changed your embodied life?
Well, it's sort of like in Zen we say life and death are of supreme importance. Now I see those two terms as almost meaningless. And it's broadened my horizons. And now it's like, but I'm still very much growing into what I've realized, and it's like I spent the whole session crying, right? And being embodied. I know I'm embodied because I would cry, right? And it feels good. But when I and over time, I'm sure that I'll open up even more to the not embodied, because it's not somewhere else. And there are not embodied beings everywhere. And they're here, they're with us, they're inside, they're everywhere. But you've got to be open to them, and so I'm opening up more.
Thank you, Futai.
And thank you, everyone, for, it's like, this is a group of embodied individuals that I trust, that I can openly share this with you and that you'll hear it and not go, oh, I don't believe that, you know. So just thank you.
Futai, would you say you ever tasted that experience that you're calling the non-embodied in your Zen practice? We talk about the deathless or true nature.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you see, there's a couple of main themes in Zen. One is life and death, and the other is awakening. And there's a lot of names for it: true self, face before your parents were born. A lot of names, a lot of labels. The great death. Die on your cushion. You ever hear that one? It's like one little digression. In the book, The Crooked Cucumber, which is about Suzuki Roshi, the founder of San Francisco Zen Center, he was a day or two away from dying, and one of his senior students came to visit him, and she walked in the room, and they gashoed to each other, and Suzuki Roshi said to her, he saw that she was concerned. She loved him dearly, her dear, dear Zen teacher. And she was concerned about him dying. She wasn't concerned for herself, her loss, but concerned for him. And he said, oh, don't worry about me. I know who I am. And because he knew who he is or who he's not, right? He was okay. He, not even knowing necessarily what was going to happen, right? And so the realization is actually fundamental to life and death also.
Thank you. How are we doing with time? We're kind of in a timeless place.
6 past noon.
6 past noon. When do we usually?
Next 5-10 minutes.
Would you be open to hosting a couple questions? Futai?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Hi, Futai. You said that when you were not embodied, you were able to go back. And my question is, who's making that choice? Like, what is the I that's deciding to go back?
So you're asking that question about who am I? There doesn't need to be somebody there. To make a choice.
So why is there somebody there? Why does it seem like someone's there sometimes?
That's what you need to see through. That's the delusion of it. Where's that clinging? What are you holding on to? What are you holding on with? Where are you stuck? It's not real.
Thank you for your answer.
Let's do Shogetsu.
I have so many questions, but I will try to just say one. What you just said, for me, opens up a possibility of reality of spirits, maybe, for want of a better word, that your teacher was really here and with you in a way that I often see interpreted in our Zen spaces as being more figurative, that there are these, beings around us, bodhisattvas around us that are not embodied. And I guess I'm just curious what your relationship was to that being literal versus figurative before, and if there's any sense that you could, say, call on your teacher or on your mother or on anyone in that way for that kind of support intentionally, or if it was just something that happened.
That actually would be a good question for my wife, Senkei. She's better at it than me in terms of you calling out for help. There's bodhisattvas, there's helpful beings everywhere. They're in human form and non-human form, and they want to be helpful. They will come to your aid, even without you asking, and if you ask, and you don't need to understand it, and you practice it, asking for help, and be open to receiving it, and it can happen. And maybe that's an important part, is you don't need to understand it. It's not about understanding it.
Let's do one more. Maybe Dojun, he's really excited.
There's a movie with the plot that somehow the population has found out that death is awesome, and so everybody starts taking their lives. Did you perhaps learn anything why it is we are embodied?
That's way above my pay grade.
All right, thank you. I'll accept it.
I don't know if there's a why.
Yeah.
Don't ask that one. It's enough just to figure out what.
Thank you.